Okay. Cardboard box provided by my new Mr. Coffee. Not too big, just your basic box. Get in the camera here. Okay. And it had styrofoam in here. That was for shipping, you know, it's got your glass carafe thing, whatever, for your coffee maker in there. So it came with 2 of these. Okay. The reason I bring this up, I don't know if I can carve this up. Got a piece of this thing off. This I thought of this a minute ago. I said, hey, this will take care of one aspect of this thing. Precise measurements. Say measure twice, you won't have to measure, you know, whatever the old saying is. I say don't measure at all, that way you won't be disappointed. Now, in the box, doesn't go kind of jacked up here. I'm going to put these back inside of here. And that'll give me a little bit of elevation. Okay, I'm going to set something on top of that. That's going to give me a little cavity in between here. Alright? So you can see I've got a box, a couple pieces of styrofoam. And you don't have to use it, this just happened to be in the box. There's all kinds of stuff you could stick in there. You'll see what I'm going to do. A cardboard box, a couple pieces of stuff in there. Styrofoam. Okay, once more with the Mr. Coffee incubator. Now, this here, you can get these at Kmart, wherever, 15 bucks, maybe cheaper online. That's a heating pad. You got a bad back or whatever, you put this on your back. I use these for my cats because I don't have any heat in the house. And so I'll wrap these in blankets, the cats sleep on them. But where I'm going to use this as my heat source. This is just one way for a heat source. Okay, here's our box. They're a cheap box again. I've got that heating pad stuffed inside of there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, those styrofoam pieces again, is jam those in there on top of it. And there's a reason for that. Okay. What that's going to do, gosh, these glasses are fogged up, is it's going to allow me to put something on top of, let's see if we can see, yeah, I can put something on top of this because I do not want the eggs to be directly on top of that, on that pad. I don't want them directly touching the heat source. I'm trying to heat the atmosphere, not the egg. And then the atmosphere will heat the egg. Temperature is a kicker. Now, I prefer to put something, like I said, I want to maintain this space here. I found this, and this is almost too good to be true. I'm not even going to use it. I save stuff like this. Came out of an old refrigerator. I save these things for jobs such as this, and it actually fits perfectly. Okay, so if I slide that in there, I could actually, that'd be a great example. Eggs will fit on that. They won't. I can roll around, but that's too perfect. That's just, it's so rare something happens like that. So we're not going to use this because I'm going to do this cheap with just the junk you have laying around. So now we've got our box, okay? We've got our heat source. We've got some pieces of styrofoam in there so we can move the eggs above the heat source. They're not sitting directly on there like a frying pan. Now what I'm going to do is I went looking around for something that I could do the egg thing with, which was back to this again. You know, I could set the eggs on here. It's clean. I don't want the eggs touching. I don't want them rolling around too much in case I bump this thing because they crash into each other. That's the advantage of the store-bought incubator, is they're in a little indention there, a little concave thing keeps them in place. But you know, chicken wire works real well. If you have chicken wire, because it's the little holes that sit right in there, and you're gonna have to rotate these things. So without using that and trying to keep it cheap, I'm going to take the other piece of styrofoam that was in there and try to stick it in there somehow where it will, the eggs will balance on this some way and keep it stable. Okay, the original plan was to stuff our heat source down inside of here, okay, just like so. Then put these 2 chunks of styrofoam that came with the box to elevate like a piece of chicken wire or whatever, because we didn't want the eggs on top of the heat source. You don't want contact. But what I did, take this other piece of the styrofoam, cut some little traps here, little bowls. So I could do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eggs. So I've cut these out, put some holes through there to get some heat through it. And now instead of, I won't need these anymore. Got my heat source in there. Got my new rack now. You see, I'm going to stuff it in on top of that heating pad. Somewhat level. Okay. Now I'm pretty close. I'm probably an inch. The eggs will probably sit about an inch, inch and a half off of the heat source here. Okay. We might need to make adjustments there. We don't know yet. There's a little square. I don't know if you see a little square right here. Okay. Coffee. Mr. Coffee made that specifically for us. I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that piece next. Okay. So we've got our insulator cardboard box. We've got our heat source, which I stole from the cats. It's their heating pad. Probably 15 bucks at Kmart, maybe Walgreens. And you don't want to get the ones with the automatic shutoff. That's the kicker. And those are hard to find anymore. Some have a 2-hour shutoff. You don't want to mess with that. You want the ones that stay on all the time. Otherwise, you got to keep track of that. We've got our piece of styrofoam, which came with the box, with our little concave bowls to hold 5 eggs. And this slot over here, this little square that's taken out, we went into our, went deep into our resource archive. And I got this little container here. I've got what I call my resource archive. Anyhow, what I popped a little hole in this thing. What this is going to do is this is going to sit inside that little let me get that in the camera. The part of the styrofoam in the front, the tray there that's open. This is going to allow it to sit right on top of that heating pad. I want this thing to touch the heating pad because it's going to have water in it. Okay, and the water is going to evaporate, giving us high humidity in here. We've got to have humidity to keep the eggs right, to keep the shells from drying out. Otherwise, they'll never be able to break out of the shells. Hydration is an issue. And so your big incubators, you fill the bottom up so it's got this constant evaporation going on. And you can just get, it kind of just does it naturally. This will make it a little quicker because of the heating pad. So I've got my heat source, I've got my eggs separated and off my heat source, not directly on it. And I've got my water for hydration here. For the humidity, it's going to sit in there just like that. And then what I'll end up with is my special top flight eggs sit inside of these. I don't know if I can get a picture of that. Let me take it out. These will sit just like that. So you can do 5 or 6 eggs. I've got maybe, I don't know, 14 minutes into this whole thing. But basically you would mark these eggs in such a way that, okay, in the morning you'll see it says AM, then in the afternoon you probably put them on the 12 side, then back to PM, because you're going to want to rotate these throughout the days, and I'll mention that. I'll put some particulars in the details. But anyhow, what we're going to do is I'm going to set this whole thing up just like you saw it. You got the heat pad is below it. My hydration, my humidity is going to come out of this bottle. Just like that, that's sitting on there. Okay, that's going to be sweating out of there. And I'm just going to set this thing up in the bathroom and see if we can maintain the temperature. I don't have any eggs yet. I want to have this thing perfected before I put an egg in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this thing up, just as this little cheap thing here, and see if we can maintain the temperature and the humidity over a couple of days. And if I can do that, it's okay, I'll put some eggs in this. I'll get some eggs and we'll rock and roll. But so far we've spent nothing. Anyhow. Okay, in the description I'll put the particulars like temperature, how often you should rotate the eggs. And this is just a simple project. I'll probably do more videos of it. If you're a gear guy, if you're the kind of guy like the Top Gear and all that kind of stuff, you know, best name brand stuff, you're not going to like my channel anyway, so we'll just you know, whatever. But this is just, I'm trying to do this without spending any money. So that would be a way it would fit most people. No, it's not going to do 48 eggs at a whack, and you know, it'd be a little more work on your part rotating the eggs on it. And I'm only going to do like morning and then night before I go to bed, and then maybe once or twice during the day, and just see how that goes. I've always had the 48 count egg incubators and turners and all that. So, but if you know, if you're somebody who's had experience with this stuff, and you know, you bought all the, hey, that's great, that's fine. I have all that too. But I'm trying to show a way that someone can just take junk and try to incubate some eggs and see if we can make that happen. And then basically you're putting your money in the eggs. The eggs are going to be the expensive part. It's been my experience. And there's plenty of videos there on how to, you know, 21 days, 19 days you do this, you know, all this kind of stuff. But I'll put the temperatures down because that's going to be important for this video. And like some people talk about, well, there's, you know, you're going to have humidity issues in there. Maybe there's not going to be enough airflow. I mean, it's a cardboard box. It's not a diving chamber. Okay, it's not, you know, there's going to be stuff happening in there. Plus, you're opening it several times a day, rotating the egg. So, I've had times in the past where, you know, if you did this outside, you don't want to have major temperature swings. Like if you have a 35, 40 degree, you know, if it's 30 in the morning and 65 in the afternoon, you can't regulate your temperature. You can't have big swings like that. I think your temperature window is inside of 10 degrees. You can't have a lot going on in an egg. I don't know how those hens do it, but somehow they manage. But I really don't think it's that particular. And if you're going to save a little bit, I mean, you might get some losses or whatever, but we'll see how it goes. What I'll do is I got the thing hooked up, and we're going to see just if I can maintain the temperature. And if that's, I might have to put a blanket over it to help insulate it because it's just a cardboard box. But I'll keep us posted on that. I mean, within 2 days I should have an idea. Okay, because I want to know what the temperature is first thing in the morning, midday, and then at night before I go to bed, because you want to see what your temperature movement is, because you might have to actually adjust where the eggs are or what your heat source is doing. A lot of people use a lamp, and then certain part in midday they'll raise the lamp, and then in the evenings they'll lower the lamp. But you really got to have otherwise you cook eggs. You really got to know what it takes a long time to figure out where you're at in those movements. So anyhow, maybe we'll see what happens. Maybe it works. Like I said, I had some lucky finds there as far as the rack and stuff, but just some styrofoam in a cardboard box. We'll see what happens. The heat source, if you don't have a heating pad, I mean, there's probably under 20 bucks, and you got to get one that stays on all day, or at least you know when it turns off. If it's 12 hour, you got to turn it back on. And you really don't want to make, you're looking at a 21-day situation, and for 21 days you got to be spot on. That's an advantage of spending money on the bigger machines. And I haven't priced them lately. I remember the incubators were about 48 bucks. And I think the egg turner might have been about 30, 35 bucks. Well, once again, you're almost into it for 100 bucks, and you may not have that. You may want to spend your money on the eggs. Anyhow, I'll shut up and we'll keep this thing. I'll keep you posted on how the temperature's doing. Love you.